we're very happy. They will show up maybe as you start speaking. We're very glad to have Marina Mkhitaryan with us. She comes with many, many years of experience in innovation and social innovation and development work. More than 15 years of experience. She's a graduate of Yerevan State University in law and philology, as well as has done courses at the Fletcher School of Diplomacy, Tufts University in Massachusetts. And she's also, love to learn more about this, she's the country coordinator of the Armenian and International Social Innovation Camps. That's different from Kolba?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll learn more about that. And since 2011, she's been in that position. And currently, she's leading the Innovations Lab, also called Kolba Lab, at UNDP Armenia. It's a project supported by UNDP.
It's supported
within UNDP. And recently, about a month ago, they had a whole camp, innovation camp in Tsavkazor. Some very interesting ideas on dealing with climate change and local solutions for dealing with climate change. And some of our students, one of our students also, Anush Khachatryan, is also participating. And so some very interesting ideas came out of that session. And so we're very glad to have you here and love to learn more about Kolba Labs and how our students can be engaged in your activities.
Thank you, Alan. We had the honor and the pleasure to have Alan in the jury of this social innovation camp, but it's such a pity we didn't have this meeting before the camp, because we were crowdsourcing for ideas from the users, from each of you, on any solutions that you have in mind, any technological solution that you have in mind on climate change and extreme weather conditions in Armenia. I will tell a bit later probably about the camp if you have time, but I've prepared a couple of slides to talk about social innovation, because you know innovation is such a buzzword that whatever you think in technology, non-technology can apply to it. Whatever is being done anew, whatever is being done different is sometimes called innovation. So I want to create kind of a frame for you, and for that reason I'm always bringing an example of an expert. If you can, I believe we can probably even move here so that you see the slides. There is a famous story. Oh.
Yeah. It will take you 3 years to figure it out.
In China, during the reign of Mao Zedong, some of you might know about him. I hope you don't remember him, but the story was called the Four-Paced Campaign. Mao Zedong was a reformer. He was a great thinker, although he's more known not as a positive leader, but as a Chinese leader. But the campaign that he started was aiming at modernizing the agriculture of the country. He thought that there are these pests, the four pests which you see in the picture, and if you eliminate them, the country will have a prosperous agriculture. You can imagine how many people live in China and how important agriculture and food is for this country. So he was thinking that if they eliminate rats, flies, mosquitoes and sparrows, the country might start doing better in their agriculture. The campaign has started with a decree of the Mao Zedong, and what happened next was really apocalyptic and really amazing, because all the farmers, they rushed up, destroying all the nests of the sparrows, killing all the mosquitoes and killing all the rats. And then he announced that there are also some rewards for those who are killing more sparrows, because sparrows were considered pests as they're eating the green seeds, the seeds on the ground. So he announced these awards, and the farmers just rushed to keep killing those sparrows. The funny thing that happened next was they discovered the sparrows not only like eating greens, the seeds, but they also like eating those terrible locusts, which in a couple of years, like in 2 or 3 years, they started to migrate to those countries in such quantities that they eventually, together with the weather conditions, eventually they resulted in the great Chinese famine, yeah, which killed a couple of dozens, million people in China. I mean, how do you make those decisions? Probably an expert in the country said that those pests are not those pests are a danger from the country and you should get rid of them. And so the political decision making was coming from the expert, and the direct line from the expert to political decision making is taking to famine and so many deaths in the country. This is not because China is such an autocratic country and not because Chinese people are so good in implementing the decisions which are coming very quickly. In another country quite close to us called Soviet Union, lived a guy called Khrushchev. You have probably heard about him too. This is a famous picture by an Armenian painter, by an Armenian photographer, by the way, Yusuf Karsh, one of the most famous pictures of Khrushchev. So Khrushchev has announced that they want a great leap forward and they want to overcome America's successes in the world to become the first in the world, number one in the world. He announced a plan for all the regions, for all the republics of Soviet Union to come up with some great successes of agricultural and economic successes in their countries. So one of his governors in Ryazan, he came up with an idea to triple the meat production in this region, in his region, saying that I'll do it, no problem. What I've been doing before this, I can triple it. That was strange because Ryazan didn't have the capacity. The rest said we'll pass, and the Ryazan governor started his progressive reforms in the region. What he had in a couple of months was he got rid of all the cattle in the region and he couldn't triple still the meat production. He started buying meat in the surrounding regions, in the neighborhood regions, for which he destroyed the economy of his region totally, and in a couple of years it was vivid that the region could not become the number one in the Soviet Union. But before that, Khrushchev has already given him a medal, so the whole Soviet propaganda has started circulating this Ryazan miracle as a miracle, and they couldn't do anything with it but to kind of enforce this miracle as a success. There is a closer story, even a closer story in Armenia. There was in 80s already, quite close in time-wise too, Gorbachev. So now you might remember who he is. Gorbachev declared a prohibition campaign for alcohol because in Russia, even now, you know that alcohol is creating so many healthcare-related issues that it's turning into a demographic disaster already. At that time, it was even worse. So Gorbachev said that we don't want any more alcohol in the country. And the campaign has started with some countries which were producing vineyards, which were producing the actual grapes. Armenia suffered probably the most in the Ararat Valley. They totally destroyed the vineyards, and some of the disaster results we still cannot overcome because there were some soils which are being lost or are lost totally. In 2 or 3 years, they realized that it's a stupid campaign, and in some countries could avoid it because, like in Armenia, we didn't have any alcohol problem, we didn't have any detox station, but the campaign was already dead. All the vineyards were destroyed. Even closer, I mean, there were those campaigns of droughts in Sevan, the uranium campaign, which was more or less a success in other regions. But the whole story is how do you identify the experts and how do you take the expert assumption to the decision making? Who is the expert eventually? And that notion of the expert is the center of the social innovation. And I'm taking the story long so that you have this background, and when I'm starting to talk about the expert, you note and the social innovation. You see the expert, you see as the expert this person who is sitting somewhere in China, who is sitting somewhere in Ryazan region, and she knows best for her what her problems are. She knows best how to fight pests, probably not the tools, but she knows that sparrows are eating, for instance, not only seeds, but also locusts. She knows that vineyards have been in this country for ages, for centuries, and we never had any alcoholism problem. Having the expert in the center of the system is not a new thing for the businesses. You know, all the consumer surveys or the relations of the consumers to the result and the quality of the product. Like I'm going to a shop to buy a Coca-Cola or whatever. What I do as my choice, my consumer choice, it determines eventually the quality, the quantity, and the way the marketing is done of the product. In development sector, it doesn't happen. In government, it doesn't happen, very rarely. So we're trying to promote the role of this lady who is the expert of her issue also in those areas. Whenever you're taking a decision, how to find this lady, how to ask her opinion, and how to not to do a sociological survey, but how to do the ethnography, how to follow and see what is her behavior and how to replicate this people. How comes that we're not still doing it? How comes that we have all those mistakes yet? Because the Sparrow campaign wasn't the last thing that we did in the world. There are a lot of things in the development that are happening now. I could bring dozens of examples of what happened in the independent Armenia, with millions of dollars invested in different sectors of development, and either no tangible results or sometimes very defective results are happening in those sectors. This strange guy, he was talking about doing things differently, and you could ask, how comes that people do not trust him? Probably this picture is not the most persuasive thing to ask this question, but it's also very illustrative. People do not trust creative individuals, not because they are skeptical, not always because they're skeptical, or not always because they're trying to be conservative, but very often because creative people look different and they violate the whole system of convention of the normality. We as a society, we have some convention, the normal things that are okay, we have the norms and the rules, and whatever violates those norms, we think it's a risk. So this person, he's even his appearance, I mean, how many, you probably have seen in my university, the Yerevan State University. I can't remember any of my lecturers appearing with a selfie like this on his Facebook page, for instance. So he's not the normal academic person, he's not the normal way of doing science. This is a not normal way of treating your neighbors and treating your neighbor species. Not a normal way for a creative person to do a face job like this. Not a normal way to commit a suicide or take a selfie if you're not the most the best designed for having a selfie. You've probably heard about this innovation diffusion theory, when a very, very small minority of people is actually creating the product, creating the new product, and then the rest of the people are either following it or rejecting it. Eventually it comes that we, very often we are in this line of the early adopters. We are in this room because we have chosen to take the skills that are not common in the society, we've chosen to come to the university which is not a mainstream, or we've chosen to read the books which are not mainstream. But all those in the 2.5%, the innovators, they're in the previous slides. They're weird, they're not normal, they don't look normal, and very often they get rejected, not only by the laggards, but also by even the early majority in the early adopters. When we're talking about the experts and the early adoption, there are a couple of, there is a way to look at the things. When you're looking at the things from a close distance, you're seeing the issue of the issue that you're dealing with from a very different angle. You can look at it as an expert, and it's not a rejection of the expertise at all, but it's a different view, which is not being used in governance and in development sector right now. And this having this connection of the expertise and having the connection of the expertise and the user is an interesting approach which is being right now used in different countries in the development sector too. We're thinking about the idea generation instances as if we are genius, like as if we have this muse supporting us to generate the ideas. But very often it's about networking, and not only networking our neurons, but also networking with people. Connecting the dots that I have in my mind with the dots that you have, connecting this in a conversation and in a communication is actually the place where the idea, where the innovative idea is being born. If you have a look at the history of your favorite books probably, or art pieces, you can see that most of them have been created in cafes, in some networks, even the political ideas are being born in these kind of settings. And the whole idea is that co-working and co-creation is creating very different results. What you have on yourself, what you have in your brain is being connected with the rest. This is a co-working space, a famous impact hub in Auckland. We will be having an impact hub in year 1, 2, by the way, soon, a co-working space. When you're putting different skills and different expertise together with the users and together with artists, you're getting phenomenal results which are not being created by an experts, never. There is a quiz that we always like to do, and I'll be grateful if you help me with this. This is a sugar bag, you probably, most of you have seen it. And somebody helped me showing how do you open usually those sugar bags.
Just repeat from also.
Like this.
Yeah.
You tear the tip off
In the middle.
and that's all.
From above.
You should open it
From above or
from the
below?
middle.
It was taught to me this.
You mean there is a way how to open it? Is there a line that is drawn there how to open
You should
it?
open it from the middle, like the.
It had to be opened in this way, in the from but the man who created that died because he was nervous.
Because people were not opening it. The funny thing is that if we had the sugar bag right now, you would see that when you're opening it, you're not doing this. You're doing first this stirring, and then you open it. I mean, it's a small detail, but usually you have assumptions on what we do. We don't have the exact picture until we follow how the way things are done. I mean, the steering is probably a technical thing, but if you're a creator, a designer, it's very important for you to see how the product is being used. So your assumptions very often, and in this case with the majority of the room, we're wrong about doing things the way that we do. Social innovation. This is such a buzzword that I'm usually embarrassed to talk about it, but actually social innovation is about bringing the user into the center of the whole design process. When you bring in the person who is steering the sugar bag or opening up the sugar bag in the center of the room and asking him to do the process, instead of calling him on the phone and ask him, how do you usually open your tea bag or your sugar bag, is changing the whole approach to designing the interventions in the countries. In Armenia, you have probably seen how many development agencies are working in Armenia. Only few of them are using human-centered approaches and social innovation in designing the program. Sociological service usually replace this approach. We have created a social innovations lab, which we think is a way to achieve social innovation. It's not the final product yet, but it's at least a channel to achieve social innovation. And we have found an easy way to do it. We are announcing open calls for ideas, crowdsourcing competitions, saying that we have identified an issue in this country. Corruption is an issue on municipal level. How do you think you can suggest an alternative way of providing services in municipalities? Or do you think you can provide the services to your neighbors instead of going to the municipality to ask for those services? This is the crowdsourcing part that we do, and if you go to kolba.am, you'll see the competitions online, and we have a random competition too, which doesn't have any limitation of topic or time, so we'll be happy to get your ideas about the issues that you have. We think that only bringing the user, the idea of the user is not enough, because we have many people, you have probably met taxi drivers, all of them have great ideas about how to change this country and how to deal with US and rest of the world. But only bringing his ideas is not enough. Even if we're UN, even if we have all the international networks, it doesn't create a mainstreaming of this idea, and it doesn't test this idea, validate this idea on the ground. So we thought that the most effective way of bringing the idea into life is to connect it into public sector, to the government. And how, I don't know how effective it is in other countries, but in Armenia it's the only way to mainstream the idea into the whole system, because the system, the government is the system. So we're working right now with the Prime Minister's office, with the government of Armenia, bringing those ideas for their validations, for their testing, when the ideas already have the prototypes, more or less ready products, and trying to mainstream those ideas in different levels, in municipal level, in different ministries, and in also a national level too. We have created recently a small startup called Condominium Management System, a smart city principle. You are living in different condominiums. You know that whenever you have an issue with your electricity, I don't know, your door is not working or whatever is not fixed, you're calling the manager of the condominium, and then he's coming in a couple of days probably, and either fixing it or letting you go with this issue. The smart city system has created an online management system for the condominium. It's in the most advanced community probably, in the most advanced condominium in Yerevan, in the Avan, when you have the university condominium. So they're launching this system this week. Would be great if you do the testing and find the bugs and the bottlenecks in the system, because we'll be happy to help them with those advices. They're trying to diminish the human factor, which is not taking away the job from this person, but it's minimizing the possibility of having a fraud, having a violation, or sometimes even corruption cases. If it works, we will be replicating it in different systems too. I mean, if you can minimize the role of a person in a small condominium, you can do the same in an airport or in a municipality too. The approach of using the technologies in social entrepreneurship and social innovation is often called social technopreneurship. And we found that it's the majority of ideas that we're receiving is related to ICTs and related to tech solutions. Although social innovation doesn't have any limits of technological solutions, but very often, since Armenia has this boom of technologies, we're receiving those ideas of technological innovation. I have a small test for you. Before you go to Kolba's website and search for the rest on yourself, because we have many wonderful tools there which help you to create an idea if you only have an issue. There is this tool called Your Assistant Muse. You can have an issue in your mind, let's say my elevator in the house is not working, or I don't know, my mom is not earning enough to buy whatever for me. You can take this issue into the exercise and find eventually the innovative solution. And just do the searching in Kolba's website. But before that, I would ask you to either individual or in small groups to do a small exercise with this pin, with the clip, to see what do you think could be the most innovative and interesting way of using the clip. How would you do it? If you had just one clip or a number of clips, that's up to you. We don't limit the size or the material of the clip. You just come up with one or two solutions of yours on using this clip, and we'll be happy to listen to the most weird solutions here in the room. You have one already? We have 2 minutes.
We should go with the other one first. Mine is an embarrassing solution. Is it? Should I say it?
We'll let people think.
Oh, I see.
Can we copy this?
So maybe you can open the door for fun.
It's
Ah, okay, so.
Nevertheless, it is still possible, I think, to open a sugar pack by tearing the top
you're
off.
suffering with this. Yeah, you can open it, but I mean, when you follow a person doing it, you can follow people in the cafes. They always steer it and they
So if we have an exposition of how to open a sugar pack, that would be socially innovative approach towards educating public.
That's when you're following a person that is the expert of his issue. When, for instance, when you're going to a village to find what's the positive deviance case, for instance. If in a village, like 10 out of 10 farmers, only one is successful, you want to see how comes that this positive deviance is happening, how comes that he is more successful than the others. The only way you do it is to go and follow him and observe him. Because if you just go and ask him the questions, you might not get the accurate information. You might get the statistical information.
So actually sort of investigating or you know,
Observing.
observing this approach as in research, how would this be identified as perhaps a quantitative research or observation or?
It's usually part of the user research. We're using a tool called ethnography. It's not an ethnography in the sense in which we understand it, but it's the type of user research. When we're asking a set of questions on how the user's feeling about the services that he received are, what are his feeling about the person that is providing the services, and the rest. It's a whole methodology by Stanford's D-School. I think we shared on the page. If it's not, I can send it to you by email.
Okay. I guess
It's not a part of the sociological survey. I mean, you can use it if you want, but it's not a part of it. It's a part of understanding when you want to understand your user and to use the users inside in your programming so that it's more effective and it reaches the target eventually. But let's see what are the solutions with the clips, if we have any really weird solutions in the room. Crazy.
I don't know if it is crazy or not, but we are thinking about having a small motor. If you, may I draw?
I don't know if
Yeah, their pens are.
you can do it.
For example, if we have a battery, and we have this stick, we can cut it and create kind of base, and here we can either have something that can move or something that we even can have light. So this.
Okay. A very useful thing. Any other ideas? Yours were embarrassing?
Yeah, but we'll wait for the others.
Okay.
If there are many of these clips, you can use it like a Lego to create something, some houses, some small things, or give to children to create something new.
Okay, so it's like a block of construction for something.
Yeah, you
It's
can
not a
connect
product
them
itself.
and create something new.
Okay.
You can use it for playing guitar.
Oh. Oh.
Use it with what?
For
Playing
playing
guitar.
guitar.
you can use it
Like
to
maybe-
submit a research paper.
That's quite innovative.
You can make a jewelry like
Or put it in here.
like there.
Or we can use it to put it here and open the
iPhone.
That's almost a traditional way of
Yeah.
using it.
Those can use it to solder the
Okay. No?
We were thinking about not too but chain armor. It will not work like
The what?
chain armor.
Chain?
Chain armor.
Armor? Like wearing an
Yeah.
armor? Like clothing out of it, yeah?
Will work as the
Weaving it into a fabric, kind of like textile.
It's very practical.
Maybe for using as marshmallow stick.
No?
But if you unwind it, you can use it as a metal thread and fix little things.
As a metal what?
Metal thread, like thread. So if you unwind it, I don't know, you can fix things together using it as a basically a linking thread.
No, it's very interesting that you let your traditional thinking out. I mean, clipping the research is, of course, the traditional way of doing it, or clipping a pack of papers is the traditional
But
way
it
of
can be
doing
an innovative research. So.
It can be an interesting research for the sake of being different. It's very rarely that people come up with lists of like one page down of the use of this clip, but it's one of the ways to open up your thinking and one of the ways to take you out of the comfort zone when you're clipping the papers with this clipper. So using these kind of exercises, we have a section. For some reason on this computer it's not properly showing, but we have a section on the website. If you have time and go into it, it's called Lab. It's on the blue part. It has exercises how to generate innovative ideas and how to turn your issues into solutions. In this, we're partnering with a couple of organizations. You might have heard about Stanford and the D-School. We're using their methodology in the design thinking and in applying the human-centered design. We're working with Nesta. It's a British think tank, the National Endowment for Science, Technology and Science. We're using a tool called DIY Toolkit. It's a pack of exercises which you can use in your trainings and your classes too. How to turn the issues into solutions, how to identify the persona, your target group, how to identify the stakeholders of your startup project. And eventually, when we are applying all these tools and we have the identified startup, we're providing a small seed funding to the startup to start the project idea. So I heard that in your projects, in your curriculum, you have a part of project design. Whenever you come up with the idea, we'll be happy to bring you to some of our exercises on human-centered design and on co-design, connect you to artists, innovators, and technology people so that you validate your project with them. And eventually, if your project is winning, we'll be happy to provide some support, a very startup support, like about $3,000 or $4,000, and also to connect you to different donors so that you have shared funding with them too. This is a whole system of finding an idea and turning it into a startup, but if you have questions, I'll be happy to probably have some details on the process and on the results too.
Would you need to write a grant?
No.
Or just a proposal?
No, in fact, the application process is very simple. What's in Armenia? You're going to either of these competitions. Let's say you have a competition on, this is the climate change competition, which is over now. You can add you can see what are the submitted ideas, can add your idea, which should be a couple of paragraphs, including the issue that you're dealing with, so that we know that you know what the issue is about, and then the solution. It shouldn't be longer than 1 page, so that we know you have the initial idea and you're open for playing with this idea, not a final expertise on the issue. And it can be in either of the languages. I think it's in 2 now, but you can submit in any of the reasonable languages.
English would do.
I know 2 people in this room who participated in your Kolba processes. Yeah?
Misha has participated in the last one.
Oh, yeah?
No, Artur Dolmajan.
Artur Dolmajan. Michelle, is it? Yeah, Michelle. And Anush, you also participated as part of a team, was it? And how was your experience?
Was it at the SECAM or a different?
Yeah, it was the game project done at the time.
Ah, right.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that project. What do you guys do? Speak louder so
Our
we can hear.
problem was to think up innovative ways of dealing with this extreme catastrophic situations. So our team decided to have this game solution in order to make people aware how they should behave themselves in these extreme situations, but do it unconsciously, like to teach them how to deal with them, but in the unconscious level.
As a part of a game, playing
Yes,
the game,
yeah.
become kind of...
So the target group, of course, were the children, but also young adults and all the people can play the game. And so in the game, in the prototype that we introduced, there was a situation when, for example, a man is in the room and there is an earthquake. So how he should react in that situation, where he should not go, what he should do instead. And when he's doing the wrong thing, he's failing, and so.
There are two options, right? You're either doing the right thing or you're doing the wrong
Yes,
thing.
yes, and every time you're failing, like it shows you in cutted ways. So that to emphasize this idea, and then if you choose the right answer, you win, and you leave.
And it's an online game. It
Yeah.
can be played by children starting from 3 to whatever.
We'll have the application.
You won, right? One of the winners.
We were
Yeah,
the second.
The second.
And they're developing right now the project. Hopefully in a couple of months we'll have the ready game and we can share it with you. The other project, by the way, again on climate change, it was a solution called Big Data, again a very trendy and the buzz name. But the team suggested that they place multiple sensors across the country, starting probably with Yerevan, which will be collecting five indicators on climate, including the quality of soil, the quality of water and the air around. The indicators wouldn't be probably very accurate, like the ones provided by the Meteo service. But the number of those indicators is creating a whole different approach. If you have like thousands of those sensors put across the country, you can not only collect information about what is going right now, but in a couple of years, you can be able to model the situation, to have the dynamics of changing indicators and model the situation for the coming shorter period.
What was Michelle's and Arthur's ideas?
Misha was participating, I think he joined, which was the group that you joined last time? They've created a project called iMango, which was... Mango, which Mangapatas, yeah. It wasn't created eventually, right? It's not online now. But the whole idea is that everybody is having problem in finding a proper Mangapatas, a kindergarten, for their children, and they're creating this crowdsourced thing. When you're giving ratings, you have all the information about nannies, you have all the information about each of the kindergartens, but it's not online, unfortunately. Arthur Dolmajan's project is one of the recent winners. He's creating an online...
Well, mine was part of the local government challenge, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So it's basically Google Transit for Yerevan as a starting point. Getting transit directions in Google Maps for Yerevan, which is a service that is not available yet. And from then it could move to a bunch of things, from website to mobile applications that are powered by the data, instead of just recreating everything from scratch.
And the practical thing is that you're finding the routes of the old public transportations. If you're a tourist or a resident here, you can to go from, I don't know, Baygamutsun to Masif, you know which routes to take, which numbers of the buses to take, and where you can stop in the metro, where you can go out to take a bus,
Exactly.
which we don't have now, and we hope to have it soon.
What are the criteria that determine the success of the project? For example, why is the kindergarten project is not online right now, or what are...
For different approaches, we have different ways of dealing with the competitions. For that one, it was a C-Camp, a social innovation camp, which is a technological solution to social issues, connecting the online solutions to the offline world. And for that one, we're collecting the ideas as a regular competition, and then having the jury to select a short list of those ideas. And then the short list is coming to the camp, elaborating the idea during 3 days with a group of experts and users. And then at the end of the day, another jury is selecting the winners of those, out of those 6 or 8 ideas, and we're giving the seed funding to those. It's usually a couple of stages, so shortlisting, then prototyping, further elaboration during the camp. But for regular competitions, for those which are on the website, we're having a flow of incoming ideas all the time, and once in a quarter we're selecting a jury, which is again shortlisting those ideas. We're having a thing called human-centered design. It's a workshop where you fine-tune kind of your ideas and apply all the social innovation tools to it. And when it's finalized and when you have a prototype of your idea, then it's taken to the jury, which is selecting the winner and the one who will be getting the funding.
Is the range of topics like so? Does it have to be just a social problem and that's all, or are there any limits?
We are a UNDP project, in fact. It's the UN's development program. So we have a couple of priorities of our own in the mandate. It's good governance, environmental sustainability, and poverty reduction, which is the whole socioeconomic range. And we're trying to keep within those limits, which is so wide that, I mean, we almost cover everything in the country.
But does education fit in there somewhere?
We usually forward the educational projects to UNICEF, but if it's lifelong education, not the one dealing with children, we're taking those.
And how to know whether the idea we're offering is a unique one? How to know whether it was offered before or not?
It can be used somewhere, I don't know, in Australia.
I mean, in this
but if
project.
it's in this project,
Yes, I mean,
it's usually assessed by a team of jury members who are experts in either in the solution or in the technology that you use. We usually have a combination of all. And at least one of them would always know if this is being used
Repeated
somewhere.
or not.
Yeah, if it's a repetition or not.
And also sometimes you can have slight variations of an idea which improves it and makes it more viable. So, I mean, ideas is a process. It's not just one genius idea. It's just a process of developing ideas.
If you have a modified idea which is more effective than the one that is not working now, or even than the one that is working now properly. Like the smart city concept is not technological innovation. It's not something revolutionary new. It's being used in the bigger cities even now, but applying it to a small condominium is interesting. And if it's connected directly to the issue that you have, and if it's responding to the issue that you have, then it's an innovation. Okay.
Any questions, everyone?
I'm sorry. Besides of climate change, do you have any ideas for, or not ideas, but competitions for environmentally things?
In UNDP, there is a program called GEF Small Grants Program, which is specifically grant making for those ideas, these kind of ideas. But ours is the thing that we did on climate change was technological innovation for climate change and extreme weather conditions in Armenia. So it was a bit narrow. We were looking for early warning systems. It was very, very narrow in fact. But the small grants program, if you check sgp.am, they're having regular competitions, and I think it's even on a rolling basis. You can submit any idea you have, consult with the team. They might also direct you to different donors.
Okay.
And good luck with the project.
Just
Move over to something.
check on them. Just
Just
click.
move the mouse.
Thumb out. Keyboard to click on it.
I'll be happy, in fact, if you have any questions or...
Can I give you my 2 ideas on paper clips? To store in a refrigerator, I often, if I don't have anything, I just like wrap up in the plastic and use the paper.
I did that too.
The other one is I clean my ear, but you shouldn't do that.
No. But it's so funny when you're having a list, like when you have time to do it, you're saying, can you have a list of the things that you can do with this clipper? At the end of the list, you're becoming really nervous because, I mean, there should be a lot of applications of this thing. And you cannot open up your mind in a limited fashion.
There were a lot of interesting ideas that you just talked about in passing. I think it would be really interesting for us, like the positive deviance idea, the ideas, various kind of methodologies that you use. Right. I mean, I would love to find ways of students. I mean, within your lab, that's great. But do you go through trainings with people, or how does that work?
We're trying not to do the regular things. I mean, we don't really feel comfortable doing the trainings, but we have a format called Kolba Cafes, which is a series of public talks. And we're inviting people to talk about the diversity of things. Like a couple of weeks ago we had a thing on cyber security and cyber crimes in Armenia. We will be having one on education soon. So if you follow the Facebook page, this is the most active part of our social media. We post all the announcements, all the startup competitions in Armenia and globally. So if you have any idea and if you want to follow all those, and also if you're interested in any of the methodologies, we'll be happy to host you in the office and to talk to you about those methodologies, give you all the guidelines and all the resources to use. It's an open,
If we can integrate that
it's a
into
totally
some of
open
our next year's.
organization in terms of copyright and resources.
Yeah. Because what we do with this environmental projects course, we spend the first, let's say, 3 weeks, 4 weeks on idea generation. And then once students generate ideas, then we go on to developing a kind of a proposal. Exactly. Now show us how exactly, what are your goals, how are you going to get to those goals, what are the very specific activities you're going to go, how are you going to take, because ideas, there's lots of ideas, so how do you take an idea and actually make it happen? So we go through that proposal writing process, and then students have to actually do the project and learn from the success and the failure. And some of these ideas methods that you talked about could be very useful, especially in the upfront idea generation.
We'll be happy to do for you a course, not a course, but a workshop in fact on human-centered design using those tools, how to identify the idea, how to identify your users, and how to find an innovative solution to the idea that you already have. It's a short course in fact, like it takes about 5 to 6 hours, but it's very interactive and we're bringing different people to different groups. So whenever you are in the stage when you have the idea but you don't have the final proposal, because when you have the proposal, you're the experts. That's the worst part of dealing with the idea. But when you have the issue in mind and an approximate solution in mind, we'll be happy to do it in our office. I mean, we have all the facilities to do it. Just will host you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your course? What is your course all about?
Okay. In our course, I teach creativity and technological innovation. First thing, we learn about what is creative thinking. We learn the techniques. We learn about vertical thinking, lateral thinking, and then we go through some exercises of the training, of combining, and seeing how we can generate ideas from connected and non-connected things. Then we learn quite well the differences between a creative person, an inventor, innovator, a discoverer, intelligent, and one more, talented. How do you differentiate between these people? How do you know whether Khachatryan was a discoverer, or it was a creative, or was a talented? Of course, he wasn't a discoverer at all. So we learned that, and then we learn the cycle of creativity, which starts from a simple bulb which lights in the brain, and then goes into creating a framework for that idea. Yes?
Why do the students need to know which is the difference between a talented man or an innovator?
Why do we need to?
Yes.
Because there are differences in between them.
Well, that's the course. I mean, if you take that course, that's what they discuss.
Right, because you cannot consider, let's say, do you consider, for example, Mesrop Mashdod a discoverer, or do you consider it intelligent, or you consider him as a talented, or you consider him as an innovator? Was Steve Jobs was an innovator, or was he a discoverer, or was he a creator? There's a big difference between, you put the people in their situations and in their unique areas, for example.
Then we learn about the differences between technology and innovation. What is technology? What is science? Very elementary, very, very important things, because a lot of people don't know the difference between technology and science. We then go to the creativity cycle and how thinking creatively will impact on innovation and will develop good technology, and then it also helps on betterment of our life and country. We then enter into creative problem solving. There are several steps. We learn the steps in framing properly, thinking right way, generating the idea or ideas based on that framing of the problem. Then once we generate the idea or ideas, how do we accept them? How do we remove the non-ideas, the non-creative from the creative ones? And then how do we put criteria on the ideas? And if how many type of criteria are there? To a point where we get into solutions. How do we find the solution? And how do we accept the solution? And how do we find the resistors and the assistors of the solution, and how do we make it as the solution for the idea? And we apply this to social problems, political problems, and to technological problems. The essence of the course is to teach the student how to open up, how to see the non-obvious, how to start thinking always creatively, and how to start using it in the daily life. Creativity and technological innovation, innovative thinking, it's not in the abstract, it's in it should be part of our nature. That's what we do.
It's so interesting that we're...
And then we take the student, at least I take the student to a point where the student says, okay, I learned all this, but then so what? Mm-hmm. So the next course, hopefully it's in fall, it will be the innovation area. Mm-hmm. And we're tackling more academically, more details rather than 5 hours or 6 hours or one day type of thing. It's a 15 weeks.
Tell about it that there is a course like this in Armenia, because we're applying different tools, including this DIY toolkit, in different countries. Like we've been doing it in Bangladesh and Jordan, for instance. Very different perception of people in different countries. I mean, I know it's a cliche, but in Armenia, people are absolutely amazing at generating ideas, not at identifying the issue, not at doing the assessment and the ethnography part, but generating the ideas. It's an amazing thing. I mean, you can outsource Armenians to the whole world to do idea generation. This is a cool tool, by the way, one of my favorite. It's called Fast Idea Generator at DIY Toolkit website. It helps you to invert the issue that you have into an idea, or to subtract the issue. Like when you say, how comes that in the airport people are receiving millions of passengers in a day and the system still works, but in a municipality you're receiving 5 or 6% and it's totally dead at the end of the day. So you can apply some of the tools used in the airport to the municipality system and get the system working. And this, like, just play with the tool. If you have an issue in mind, then you'll see it's really fun to do. And we have, I think we as Armenians, we have the skill to do connecting of very different dots together, the unexpected dots together, and coming up with interesting ideas.
In fact, I should add, it's very, very promising, and it's very good. At least the bunch of students I have, I noticed that they are so, as you said, creative in thinking. And sometimes I hear them saying stuff that I'm really getting thrilled when I hear them talking. And but my job sometimes in the class is just to facilitate them rather than dictate. And sometimes I dictate, sometimes I sort of guide. And simply because I want them to learn the right way of thinking, rather than just saying, oh, I have an idea, oh, let me go and start something, and then in a year time, the person fails and says, oh, this is not a good environment, this is not a good society, da, 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 da. And I always repeat this, right? And I want them to think properly in this society, in this environment, in the environment they live in the area they live in the community they live in. So, and I have one student sitting next to me. And I sent this email to everybody of my students, and I'm disappointed because maybe they have classes this time. That's why
It's
they're
a
not
lunch
here.
time.
But I would like to come over because we have a class
Yeah, we'd be
today.
happy to. I mean,
Yeah.
with the students, whenever you want. Have fun.
We have a class at 3 o'clock. If you're around, if she can be around.
She can.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd also like to mention Irshad runs our Teaching English as a Foreign Language program, and they do very innovative solutions to teaching English. They've taught English to dance, they've taught English. Tell us about some of the process you go through to come up with interesting ways of teaching.
Well, we have a couple of courses that prepare students. We don't necessarily focus much on maybe innovative, creative thinking. Maybe we should. What you were describing was very interesting. But we just leave it up to the students to identify a problem and capitalize on the strengths they have, because we have students of different backgrounds. Some of them come that are, they're professional dancers, for example, as Alan mentioned. Some of them are professional artists. Some of them like to work with children, some with grown-ups. And so we just leave it up to them, and then they come up with ideas of courses that could be taught. Again, it will be courses to teach English. But I'm interested, this discussion is very interesting. I'm thinking to how to network now with the different people here, and how we could maybe bring in some of your expertise into our area.
By the way, everyone, this is what networking means, right?
Yeah.
Connecting the dots.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.